We have 3 keynote speakers for today, and without any further ado, allow me to introduce our first keynote speaker. This is the Executive Director for UN Habitat, the Executive Director for UN Habitat, Maimuna Sharif. Maimuna?
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. I'm truly honored to provide the keynote speech today as part of the third in a series of annual conference on women and transport in Africa. I vividly remember the first conference held in November 2018 in Nairobi, when I was so inspired by the live performance on Stories of Nairobi's Matatu Women that featured women's rights in the minibus industry. It is an exciting opportunity to gain and to able to participate in this conference series in 2020, although virtually. I would like to commend the Flown Initiative and all other partners for pulling together such a great program on a topic that deserves stronger focus in this challenging year of 2020. What we observe is that the COVID-19 pandemic has worsened existing gender inequalities, and according to the UN Women in Chile, Canada, Nigeria, the Philippines, Kenya, India, and the US, cases of sexual violence against women in public spaces, including street and on transport, continue being reported during the crisis. There is also a reported increase of domestic violence. For instance, in Vancouver, reports of domestic violence to helplines have increased by 300% during the lockdown. In addition, the pandemic clearly illustrates the vulnerabilities of our mobility systems. Public transport has been strongly affected by the pandemic, with ridership levels reducing up to 90% in some cities during movement restrictions. This situation has been particularly severe for women, as they tend to have a poor access to private means of transport in comparison with men. At the same time, women take on a higher share of their household travel burdens and have to make sure more trips associated with their child care responsibilities. Working in Cairo, in a collaboration with UN Women, UN Habitat has helped prepare operational plans for public transport operations, keeping in view women's travel needs. We have also worked with the Flown Initiative in improving standards and customer service in Nairobi's informal transport industry to better serve the needs of women. Public authorities and transport operators need to take special action to protect women from getting infected or from other safety and security concerns in public transport or in overcrowded streets. They also need to consider measures to protect them from the negative impact of the pandemic, such as economic hardships arising from the loss of jobs. UN Habitat is rolling out a series of COVID-19 projects in some of the most vulnerable urban neighborhoods around the world, including in Lebanon, to help communities and especially women mitigate the effects of pandemic and the ongoing socio-economic crisis. In doing so, UN Habitat has already provided almost 1,000 families with hygiene protection kits that will help them to stay safe when moving around the city. As cities limp back normalcy, it will be of utmost importance to rebuild trust in public transport and improve conditions for walking and cycling, since this provide a low-cost, inclusive, and affordable mobility option, particularly for women. Better streets and bike paths can also be conducive to safer physical distance in public spaces and contribute to mitigating the impact of the pandemic. Their construction can also provide jobs, particularly for the poor. As national and local government prepare their economic and social relief plans all policies and programs should mainstream gender in order to lessen the detrimental effects of the pandemic and combat gender-based inequalities. Transport authorities and operators should learn from the pandemic and start designing gender-sensitive transit system and transport infrastructure. Greater emphasis has to be placed on women's mobility needs by involving them in the planning, design, and implementation of transport system. Only then we will be able to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 5 on gender equality and Goal 11 on sustainable cities and communities. With these few remarks, I wish you all a successful conference and fruitful discussions. Thank you. Asante sana.
Thank you so much, Maimuna. For those who do not understand Swahili, asante sana means thank you very much. And thank you for that beautiful speech. Our next keynote speaker is Zoleka Mandela. This is the Global Ambassador for Child Health Initiative.
I'd like to start by thanking the Flown Initiative for inviting me to speak at this very important conference. It's great to be involved in Women in Transport Africa 2020. It's a real honor to be speaking to you, and may I say that the work you're doing is very dear to my heart. The issue of equality and women's rights in transport was a subject of incredibly powerful research published ahead of this conference. I work closely with the FIA Foundation that supported recent research on adolescent girls and safe mobility. The research was carried out by a social enterprise called SafetyPin. It paints a deeply shocking picture of the fears and insecurity of adolescent girls when using our transport systems and when on their daily journeys. A huge number of girls said that they felt frightened or vulnerable every single day. I'd like to quote the CEO of SafetyPin, Kalpana Viswanath, who put it in the starkest of terms. And she said, "Fear of sexual violence is a constant in women's lives. Every time a woman steps out of a home, she faces that fear." I think everyone should pause for a moment and really think about this. How can we tolerate this situation? How can it be acceptable that women and girls feel this way? And how can we have such barriers to accessing education, to going to and from work, to the basic necessity of getting around a city? Let me tell you about my own personal experience. Like far too many other women, I suffered sexual and physical violence as a child and young girl. I was sexually abused by some of the adults in my life who should have been looking after me. It was an abuse of power, and it was a violation of my trust. It was a deep and traumatic humiliation, and it left me emotionally and mentally scarred. It led me to self-harm, and it led me to trying to take my own life several times. It led to alcohol and drug dependency. Absolutely no child, no young person, and no woman should ever have to suffer like this. None at all. No debate, no excuse. For us as victims, there is a double tragedy. There is the abuse itself, but there are also the ongoing effects, the way that going forward, the experience constrains and imprisons us. This violation of our rights as a human being is not just limited to those of us who are directly experiencing abuse. It extends to those of us who suffer harassment, who experience fear, and who are blighted by discrimination in our public spaces and on transport as we go about our lives. The FIA Foundation research shows that the fear of harassment itself begins to limit how women and girls can even access the city. My grandparents, Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela and Nomzamo Winnie Madikizela Mandela, grew up in a country which systematically discriminated against people and denied them their rights. It was a country where people did feel routinely threatened and were abused while attempting to go about their daily lives. We should be ashamed that on the basis of gender, we don't appear to be making such great progress. My campaigning with the FIA Foundation and its Child Health Initiative is shining a light on this kind of injustice. What we're saying is that our transportation systems need a serious rethink. We need to make them safer in every respect, more equitable, accessible, and truly sustainable. One strong message is that our leaders must commit to and implement the solutions. Often the infrastructure and services themselves need to be improved. Too often there's little attention to what women actually need. And the solutions can be so simple, whether it be street lighting, adequate sidewalks, management of public transport, or training for transport operators. This is a problem that extends across our campaigning at the Child Health Initiative. We campaign to give every single child and adolescent a safe school journey. Millions of young people are killed, injured, or suffer ill health as a result of a transport system which fails to prioritize their needs. I've seen it firsthand here in Africa. Children terrified as they try to walk to school, facing speeding traffic and breathing toxic air. Here, we also have the solutions at our fingertips. Where there are children, young people, and vulnerable road users present, we must have speeds of no more than 30 kilometers per hour. Any more than this is a death sentence. We're calling for safe crossings and sidewalks for every single young person on the school journey. All of this is in our Child Health Initiative manifesto for action now to 2030. It outlines how we must have safe and equitable transportation for all. And we want to see this included in a global summit for young people. This summit should bring together all the issues that affect our young people, whether it be sexual harassment and abuse, mental health, poor nutrition, or road safety. So at this conference today, let's please resolve to join forces. Sign up to our campaign at mystreet.org. Let's reclaim and transform our streets. Let's take action for young people everywhere to uphold their rights and protect their future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zoleka. Indeed, let us reclaim, transform our streets. She says, let us reclaim and transform our streets. Our next keynote speaker is Henrik Maihak. This is the country director in Kenya for Frederick, Albert, and State Farm.
A warm welcome from the FAS Friedrich Ebert Stiftung Kenya office, a proud partner of Flown, and we are very delighted to be partnering with Flown and others on the Women in Transport Africa conference. And of course, Flown is, we have established a cooperation primarily here in Nairobi in regards to our socially just public transport working group, where we have partnered with Flown and other organizations to work on a more fair and more socially just public transport. I will talk about that in a little bit, but let me say a few words about the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, FES. We are a German foundation committed to the ideas and values of social democracy, financed by the German Parliament, and in Kenya since 1964. And in our work at FAS, my team and I, we have increasingly realized that shaping urbanization will be one of the big social questions of the future. So who benefits from the way we do urbanization, and who gains and who doesn't gain from it? And in Kenya, one of the issues that decide whether urbanization is shaped in a socially just way is, of course, the issue on the issue of public transport. And I'm always impressed, speaking to Naomi and others, how Flown has experience on this issue and has tackled this. Because as a social democratic foundation and as working on just urbanization, we realize that gender justice is a crucial component of a just city. And I think we can all agree on that there is no just city without a gender just city. So let me say a few words about what my colleague Robert and others have been working on with the socially just public transport working group. The working group brings together organizations like Flown, but also trade unions, civil society, other civil society organization, experts, etc. And they have developed criteria for socially just public transport, and those criteria have been guiding the working group. And let me mention some of them. It's access, it's safety, it's affordability, it's inclusion, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, also gender justice. The group has already been working for almost 2 years and has managed to share those criteria in different spaces, in the media, in policy spaces, and in different formats here in Kenya. And we're quite happy that in some of these spaces, those criteria were actually accepted, and policymakers promised, so far only promised, to build a socially just transport based on those criteria. I will talk a little bit about one project that the group has embarked on, and that's the Desai Park Road in Ngara. This is a small project where we try with the working group to bring those criteria into reality and to also demonstrate what can happen if different organizations work together, form an alliances, and try to turn socially just transport into practice. Different activities we do as FAS on the Just City. We work in 9 countries on the continent on just urbanization. And I'm also very happy that we have recently signed are in the process, have not yet, but are in the process of signing an MOU with UN Habitat. And I realize UN Habitat is also here with us. So we're looking to a collaboration where we can get our socially just public transport working groups, also our working group on the Just City, and also UN Habitat and Flown and together, put them all together and discuss things. For the conference, I wish you all the best. I hope the conference manages to look at the big picture, but also narrow down on certain intervention of what can actually make a change in people's life. But I'm very confident that is very much in the center of the deliberations. Because that's how I know Flown. So on behalf of the Friedrich-Ebert Stiftung, thanks again for the partnership, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming conference. And I hope I get to participate in as many sessions as possible. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Henrik. We also hope that you get to participate in as many sessions as possible, because your words are full of wisdom. We like your passion, and we appreciate everything that you're doing. I want to quote something that he said. He said, "No just city without agenda just city. No just city without agenda just city." Thank you very much, Henrik.